Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 17th, 2024 regular meeting of the Council for the Village of Yellow Springs. And we are starting now at our new time, which is 6 p.m. as opposed to 7 p.m. Yay. Meeting is called to order. Judy, if you could do a roll call, please.
Yes, Stokes.
I am here.
DeVore Leonard.
Here.
Housh.
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
Thank you. Also present is Police Chief Burge, sitting in for Johnny Burns, who is on a well-deserved vacation, and Solicitor Amy Blankenship.
All righty. Well, we're going to begin.
Oh, we are expecting Carmen. I've
Oh,
not
great.
heard
Thanks.
otherwise.
Sorry for jumping the gun there.
Oh, no, I flagged.
Yep, not a problem. So, as we usually begin, we're going to begin with swearings in, and we have Jennifer Rosengarten to be sworn into the Environmental Commission. Hi, how are you? Okay, how are you? Good, I'm good too. I'm excited to have you here. We're good. All right, let's go first. All right. Please repeat after me. I solemnly swear
I solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws of the United States
and will obey the laws of the United States
and of the state of Ohio,
and of the state of Ohio,
that I will, in all respects,
that I will in all respects. Oh.
I think swears still count even without the right hand. Observe the provisions
Observe the provisions
of the Charter
of the Charter
and ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs,
and the ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of.
the duties of the office of the Environmental Commission.
Yes.
Excellent.
Congratulations and welcome to the family.
Yay, thanks.
Cutting corners.
Group
So
participation.
do you have something to be signed or? Jennifer? Can you just come over and talk to Judy just for a second, real quick? All righty. Thank you once again, Jennifer, and welcome to the family. All right, now's our time for announcements. Do we have any announcements?
So I know we've got Philip O'Rourke here to talk about what is, I just checked, the 11th annual Yellow Springs Pride celebration. Philip, if you want to come up. All right. Tell us all about what's going on the 29th and before and after.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. We are excited this year for the 2024 annual YS Pride Festival. It is going to be on the 29th, and it will be at Mills Lawn Elementary School on the block of Mills Lawn from 11 to 5. Now, this year, a few things are different, and I got some notes so I could let everybody know at the same time some of these differences. This year, the march, we're having a march, the parade starts at 11. Normally, it starts at 12. This year, we're incorporating marching as well. And this is the brainchild of Daryl Demure, who also brought us the Spirit Award for floats last year. We're anniversarying that, but this year, we are going purple, thus my shirt, with the Purple March. And this march brings together the ongoing fight for reproductive rights and the struggle for LGBTQ plus equality, recognizing the deep and meaningful intersectedness of these social issues. So we're very excited about that. One of the things that we are also excited about is to partner with a lot of different organizations, a lot of different speakers, a lot of different people around, number one, this community, but throughout. This year, YS Pride is normally on the 4th. Generally, the last Saturday is the 4th one. This year, it is the 5th one, so we're not intersecting graduation for Antioch. So we're excited to partner with them. I know, right? I know. There's so many things. So many. Cincinnati is normally on the same day we are, so we're not on the same day as them this year. Springfield is normally on the same day that we are, so we're not on the same day as them this year. So we're going purple for reproductive rights and for equality. We have a whole day of entertainment from 11 to 5. We have some amazing entertainment. We have vendors, of course, as usual. We would love to have council come and represent the Village of Yellow Springs. It's going to start at 1 o'clock. You'll get a formal invitation from me probably tomorrow. It's going to start at 1 o'clock for the official welcome of YS Pride this year. We do have some opportunities. I know people are always wondering, how can they help? What can they do? How can people be a part of it? People can sign up for the Purple March as well as the parade. Show all of your colors. Just go all out. We are pulling all the stops out this year. It's going to be fabulous, if I can use that word. But it's going to be amazing. We also have some opportunities for volunteers to help us make this year so incredible. One of the things that I wanted to say was thank you so much to the support from Village Council, always supporting YS Pride. One of the things I also wanted to say was the support from YSPD over safety and through management with Johnny Burns when it comes to logistics. This is such an incredible event. Everybody looks forward to it, but most importantly, it centers this year around a lot of issues that are in the mainstream, a lot of issues that are near and dear and important to a lot of people. You're going to hear a lot of things surrounding voting. How do we stay connected? How do we get involved? And after we say we want to do something, what are we going to do? So we're trying to put some feet to the words, and this year we're super excited about it. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. And no, to our community collaborators, let me say this, because I think people don't really understand how much we go back into the community and try and pull a lot of organizations with us. So I want to say thank you to Antioch College, the Yellow Springs Library. This is another year that we were able to be featured in their lobby, their display there. Please, if you haven't seen it, go to the Greene County Yellow Springs Library and look at the display. It was a tremendous work that we did in collaboration with the Coretta Scott King Center and some other Antioch students. Yellow Springs Brewery with Just Be Nice beer again this year. Little Art Theater. They've done the Pride series of movies on Thursday. On Saturday the 29th, they're helping us close out the day right before the after party, our beach after party. They're going to be showing a special viewing of The Birdcage at 7:30. Tickets are available now, so you can go to yspride.com and check those out. So there is something this year for everybody. Get your colors, get your pride, get your thinking caps on to say, what can I do when I leave here to make a positive change? And thank you so much for your investment in YS Pride, and go purple with us this year.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Philip.
Philip, just one more thing.
Yes.
The answer is probably yspride.com, but is that where folks can go to sign up who want to volunteer?
Thank you for asking. Yes. You can follow us on Facebook at Yellow Springs Pride. What I like to tell people is yspride.com is the home hub for everything Pride. Any questions that you need answered will be there. The map of the parade route will be there. Participation schedules, who's coming, who are the entertainers, who are community collaborators. yspride.com for this event and moving forward. Anything Yellow Springs Pride, you can find it at yspride.com.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That's probably a very informative,
for sure.
very informative announcement.
Why has Pride it up? Yeah, I was thinking about wearing my purple as well today, and Ms. Demure has certainly gotten me into the Purple March. I want to also, I appreciate that the Little Art is doing a Pride series. I know Pink Flamingos isn't everyone's game, but I would totally recommend this Thursday, Hedwig and the Angry Inch. If you have not seen that musical, it's amazing. I got a few other things. I wanted to give a shout out to Randall Newsom, who we celebrated on Friday. amazing. I learned from John Gudgel that Randall has served our community for 63 years as an educator, as part of the police department, and just such an amazing guy. And he's not going anywhere, so we'll see him around. Our best places to work in Dayton, we completed our surveys, and we find out on July 5th if we are a finalist, which I think then means that the region votes or something like that. The Beloved Community Lunch this month is this Saturday, June 22nd, from 12 to 2. And I wanted to highlight, because I know we've gotten emails, but the Beloved community that supports that is really interested in village leadership coming and interacting and engaging with our community. So if any of us can make it, that would be great. The Juneteenth celebration, thank you to the organizers. It was wonderful. Philip was a great MC, really, all around. I was able to do the tour at the beginning, and it was really nice as we walked into Mills Lawn. And I wanted to highlight, I mentioned this at our last meeting, that Yellow Springs was one of the first municipalities in Ohio to make Juneteenth a holiday. We added that to the list of holidays we celebrate officially this year on Wednesday, June 19th, which is Juneteenth. The Village Cafe this month is focused on affordability, and it's going to be here at the Bryan Center Gym from 7 to 9. I think a topic that we're all really engaged in. And since there were some comments about the heat, remember the John Bryan Center is a cooling center, and we are open 24/7 for folks like myself and Judy that don't have air conditioning. So if you need to cool down, the Bryan Center's here for you. Last thing I wanted to mention is I think we all know that Dorothy Allen, a really amazing person, pillar of our community, recently passed. Her funeral was also on Saturday when we celebrated Juneteenth. She spent the 100 years of her life in Yellow Springs, and I wanted to recognize and celebrate her.
All right.
I have a couple, if you
Well, sure.
wouldn't mind.
Nope,
Thanks
don't mind
for
at all.
letting me visit up here tonight. So first of all, I just wanted to recognize and thank everyone that was involved with our 2024 June Street Fair. It was a huge success. We believe at this time, just based on several factors that are known to us before we're able to get formal counts from our aerial shots of that, that it was our most heavily or populated event. So we've got a couple aerial shots here. That was courtesy of Mr. Jordan Gray, who helped us out with that this year. There's a lot more where that came from, and we're going to use those to try and get an accurate count. Also, just one correction. Thank you for mentioning that we are a cooling center, very important, especially to our unhoused population this time of year. But we are not 24/7, so it is only during the John Bryan Center operating hours.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? Okay. All right. Thank you all for all of those very, very helpful announcements. We're now down to our consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, we have the minutes of our previous June 3rd regular meeting, the minutes of our June 6th special meeting, and then the credit card statement for May. Regarding the minutes of June 3rd, 2024 regular meeting, can I get a motion so that we can discuss that?
So moved. Second?
All right. Any questions, updates, concerns regarding those minutes? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor of approving those minutes, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Hearing none. The motion is passed. Regarding the minutes of our June 6th special meeting, may I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All righty. Any updates, changes to that set of that agenda, or those minutes, rather? Nope. All right. All those in favor of approving those minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
And thank you. Any opposed? All right. Hearing none. That motion is passed. Moving on to our final item. item on the consent agenda, the credit card statement for the month of May. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right. Any questions, concerns regarding the credit card statement for May of this year?
Yeah, really quickly. So there's some, let me look here. Myers Springfield Health and Wellness for police. And then there's another one from Kroger for health and wellness. What's health and wellness?
So it's health, wellness, and morale, and that is everything from, it could be birthday cards, anniversary cards, little treats and goodies just to keep morale up, things like that. So we budget, I believe, oh, she's not here, I was going to look for Michelle. I believe we budget about $500 a year to just kind of contribute to keeping people, happy to come to work and letting them know we care about them, so.
Okay, cool.
All right. I would say that's money well spent. All right. Any other comments?
Who busted the windshield?
A truck on 68 kicked a rock back and put a little crack in it. Fortunately, it was able to be repaired and didn't have to be replaced.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. Safely?
Actually, no, Johnny recommended somebody. So.
Okay. All right, good enough. Any other comments or changes on the credit card statement? All right, all those in favor of approving the credit card statement for May, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, that motion is passed. Now we're at the review of the agenda. That's where we discuss and consider items not on the agenda that you would consider to be added, or removing anything that's currently on the agenda. Are there any agenda review items?
Yeah, I guess I have two. So I'll say one of the things that in the past we were more liberal about adding things to the agenda, but we generally don't like to do that. The two items I'm going to ask to be added to the agenda, I did proactively suggest they go on the agenda. So, I tried to do due diligence. But one of those is related to the letter from Lisa Abel about supporting funding for the Yellow Springs Development Corporation director position. And there's some urgency around that because Lisa has been doing that position gratis for over a year. She was paid for her first 6 months. And so she has indicated that she's going to resign in August. So there's an interest in getting that search going. The second thing is in petitions and communications, I included a draft resolution, which is not a new item. In fact, it was supposed to be on our agenda on May 6th about indicating our commitment to the low-income housing tax credit initiative. And partly, I think that resolution adds strength to the letter that we're going to be talking about tonight that we're sending to Cresco and AUM. So those are my two requests, and maybe we need to parse those out, or
Judy, is Lisa going to be here tonight to speak on the YSDC item? I don't think I saw her come in. Did she?
I had responded to her and told her that she would have 3 minutes in citizens' concerns. My assumption was 3 minutes in citizens' concerns, and that it was likely to go on the agenda for July 1st. And I don't know if anyone else has spoken with her in the meanwhile. That was last week.
she said in her letter that she was going to be here tonight, yeah.
So for that reason, I'd like to leave that off the agenda to allow Lisa to be able to talk to it. I think the letter, with regard to a discussion, the letter itself is pretty straightforward. I do, again, want to allow Lisa the opportunity to come and speak on that. And I know Johnny wanted to be here and be part of that conversation. Staff wanted to be able to share share some input, add some input to that. So why don't we put that aside and still reserve that for Lisa to be able to speak to that, presuming she'll be here later in the evening. Judy, Brian mentioned that the resolution was supposed to be on a previous agenda. You know what happened in
You had
that?
talked about, Brian had asked to bring a resolution supporting low-income housing, and I had understood it to be a general resolution, generally supporting that. And we bounced that back and forth, and the decision was made not to bring that resolution. And I don't know if this is more separate. Brian has indicated several times that he is interested in council taking a vote on specifically committing to the LIHTC project. So this resolution is more, geared in that direction.
So, is it okay just to weigh in, I guess?
Yeah.
So from my angle, it's like sort of like a process question of like, when do we talk about things? How do we have, things prepared to talk about? So when it comes to the YSDC thing, like the letter's dated June 12th. I don't know if there was something before, but we set rules earlier in the year. If it comes in before the date, then we put it on. I just know in this case, like it wasn't on the agenda planning discussion. I didn't know it was a thing at that point. So to me, that's like a fairly obvious, let's just put it on the agenda when it makes sense. I'm, when Lisa comes or otherwise, if there's, questions that we want to share with, like who would be the point of contact? Like it would be relevant to gather that, because this is not a memo that I want to be making decisions about. This is just a letter, but it's not like on staff's behalf or from council's perspective. So I would like to think that whenever we got to that agenda item that we would have that information. I hear the piece around the August dynamic, but I feel like we've set rules. Let's stick to them when it comes to the, when requests are made. In terms of the resolution, I'll just say, like, I can understand how this could be like a little murkier of like, when did it come up? I'll just say, like, having read it, my basic take is that I feel like that's what I thought we've been saying, and then you're just sort of putting it into a resolution form. So I don't know what the right process thing is, but I feel like we've already been saying that publicly, so I don't have a problem with it personally, but that's just my 2 cents. I don't know how we decide on this exactly.
Carmen and Trish, you want to weigh in?
And that was my understanding as well.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
So, from a consistency standpoint, this is, I don't think, is a place where we need to make an exception because we've had struggles in the past when we've allowed things to come to the agenda in a premature fashion. And for the sake of time, because we've already spoken about it a lot, and I think probably the more critical thing that we will have time to talk about is the letter. And I think the letter will say a lot, and I think the letter will speak to, we'll have an opportunity to weigh in on the letter and speak to where we are in that. That being the case, I think the resolution is, as we've had time to really digest it, I think would be an easy thing to do, again, as we've had time. So, 2 things. Number 1, sticking to our processes, which is what I intend to do, number 1. And then secondly, because there is also a discussion item about the LIHTC process, it's the letter, but we can certainly talk about the rationale and the background for the letter. And I think it would cover all the things that that the legislation might cover. Okay? So
actually, I will push back a little bit. I'm okay with, the not putting the YSDC ask on the agenda. I mean, I do want to emphasize that we don't have anything codified in our rules and procedures around adding things to the agenda. So I guess I would ask for a vote on whether the proposed resolution goes on the agenda.
So just real quick, can we make sure we're saying the same thing?
Yes.
So I think I don't know what the word codified means in this context, but we had in the rules, it says, I forget, Judy, what is it's like the what before the next meeting is the date to get things on the, so either you say them at the end of the meeting, right, in agenda review, or is it the, sorry, I don't remember them off the top of my head, but like it's like the Wednesday before the following Thursday. It is written down like what the basic timeline is. I think what you're seeing in practice is that we don't always follow it. Historically, certainly not. And I think I'll speak for myself. I'm trying to get us to a point where we're following it consistently so that these kind of things aren't like, we like this one, we don't like that one, that it's like, here's what happens when something gets communicated. And I'll just say that for agenda planning the last time, we didn't talk about either of these things. At that point, they weren't there.
Well, my understanding is you guys did talk about the resolution, but again, I understand the idea that if it's something that is going to take us off the rails, and I know we're talking a little bit about this, but process-wise, our rules and procedures do not say we can't add something to the agenda. They talk about like what things.
Yeah.
So, and the reason why I want it on there is because I think it would be a nice thing to attach to the letter. So that's why I want us to discuss it.
It would be nice to attach the legislation to the letter after we pass the legislation. Our solicitor has not reviewed the legislation, to my knowledge.
Are we talking about the resolution that Brian emailed on Friday?
Yes.
I have not read that. I mean, I've read through it. I haven't considered it from the perspective of whether or not it causes any issues. I didn't see, Gavin, I pulled the rules and procedures of council that you were talking about a minute ago, if that's useful. This was the procedures as we amended them back in May, although I don't believe this section changed. And it's 10 days is what you're referring to. Items to be considered for the agenda will be accepted from council members until 5 p.m. on the Thursday, 10 days prior to the next scheduled meeting. Beyond that, so this resolution, it also talks about exigent circumstances, right? That if there's exigent circumstances, items can be added. So if you determine this to be that, exigent circumstances, you can add the resolution to the agenda. In terms of what that's going to commit the village to long-term, I think, is that what you're getting to here, right? As to whether or not, well then, that discussion probably needs to be had as well in terms of approving the resolution. So I see it as two steps. One, decide whether or not you're going to consider it tonight, and then let's weigh into what the resolution itself actually commits you to. Does that work?
Yep. Thank you. So, because I'd like to move on, I'm going to go ahead and put, and again, let's, what our solicitor just shared is, I don't think it rises to the level of making an exception. That being the case, it has not satisfied the rules that we said we want to follow. And so I don't want to qualify how important or when it's less important to follow the rules that we recently established. But that being said, Judy, I'm going to deviate just a little bit, and just the question, even though I'm not asking for a motion, I'm just asking for a roll call vote on whether we want to put this item on the agenda, this legislation on the agenda, which has not gone through, and I'm not degrading it, I'm saying it has not gone through the channels that we've discussed, and our solicitor has not reviewed it. So I would not want an unreviewed legislative item to end up being an item on the dais that we would vote for, where it would probably take a lot of work to get us to that point. So Judy, if we could just do a roll call vote on whether we want to just bring the discussion of this legislation to the table.
Yes, I'll start with Gustafson.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Discussion.
Thank you. DeVore Leonard.
Sure.
Brown.
No.
Housh.
Yes?
Stokes.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
All right, so was that 3 yeses? All right,
Yes.
so is that new business?
Well,
Or old business?
It's a resolution, so I would just add
Yeah.
the legislation.
because not knowing the outcome of the discussion, if you waited until new business, and in fact, you've got a majority of folks who do want to pass that legislation, it sort of puts it in the wrong, it's not that you wouldn't be able to do it, but it takes it out of the normal order of looking at legislation.
All right, so you advise adding to the end of legislation.
Yeah.
Okay, so be it. Any other review items for the agenda? All right, moving on to petitions and communications. Kevin, if you would, please.
Sure. The mayor's clerk submitted the monthly reports. Friends Care Center had their cookout flyer. Johanna Schultz-Herman about opposition to the proposed low-income housing tax credit site. Laura Curliss about the remembrance of Susan Gartner. Brian Housh with the proposed, just discussed, low-income housing tax credit legislation. Dino, Pallotta about a thank you for a safe street fair. Emily, Seibel, and a group of many people with safety concerns at development site. Lisa Abel with the request that we talked about before about YSDC funding, and then Grant Miller about CHDOs. Oh boy, Community Housing Development Organizations.
There you go.
Very good. Do you want to do that?
Which aren't actually organizations, if you read the letter. They're just organizations in that moment.
I'll just say something. Yeah, good on you. You're really good at this. All right. One thing that Gavin alluded to in the petitions and communications was the group of folks regarding an issue at Kenneth Hamilton Way. Johnny, village manager Johnny Burns, is aware of the situation. He's in conversation with the powers that be. So without having the resolution of that conversation, we're not going to say much to that, but do know that the powers that be are in conversations to get things resolved, ultimately ending with a satisfactory, safe, and accountable situation. Okay? Thank you. All righty. Public hearings and legislation. Judy, if you could read by title only for Resolution 2024-42.
This is authorizing expenditure for outside counsel to obtain legal analysis on the availability of specific public school property for purchase for the purpose of low-income housing.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Amy?
Hi, good evening again. All right, at the last meeting, council approved a motion to bring forward a resolution to consider a expenditure for legal fees, to look into some property owned by the school board and determine whether or not that property is available for purchase by the village. It's known in the public realm that this land is entangled somehow with probably as collateral in relation to the recently voted on and approved bond by the school district. So in discussing all of this at last meeting, you did make the motion to bring forward this resolution. The resolution's in your packet. As I worked through this process after the fact, there was a phrase used at last meeting a few times, this idea of paying the school's legal fees. That is not what this is. This is village council hiring an attorney, bond counsel, to review the issue and determine whether or not the land that you as a village might be interested in purchasing is available for purchase. So this is a due diligence step to determine whether or not that land is whether it's even possible for the village to purchase it. It's my recommendation that we use a separate attorney from the school district's attorney. Full disclosure, I work at the same law firm as the school district's attorney, but it's my recommendation that we use a different attorney, not because it's my firm, but because this needs to be your legal advice that you are acquiring with your public funds. And so by hiring your own counsel, then you will have access to that attorney, you'll have access to that advice. There'll be no privilege issues in terms of whose legal advice it's being rendered to. It's being rendered directly to you as the village. My recommendation is to work with Brad Rui at Dinsmore and Scholl, and he's aware of that $7,500 cap that's in the resolution. He says that's perfectly achievable, and so if you have any questions, I'm happy to consider them, but I think this is the best path forward to get the legal advice you seek about that property owned by the schools.
Any idea of how long?
I asked him that question. Lawyers never want to commit to it. But I did ask him that question, and he indicated once he's in a holding pattern, waiting to see what happens tonight if this resolution is approved. But he did indicate it could take, it would be somewhere under 2 weeks about would be the timeline that he was proposing. And hopefully they're able to stick to that. Who knows what could get in the way. He hasn't looked into it yet. But it is my understanding that a lot of the information that he needs to do this is publicly available if you are bound counsel and know where to look for this sort of thing.
So can you just help me understand the scope a little bit? So is any of this talking to the schools or their counsel about the transaction, or is it purely looking at what is... So let's just say, for example, that one of the things that's been talked about is that the land, that something needs to be done with the collateral issue, that it could be done, but steps need to be taken. Does this anticipate working toward those steps, or is this only to find out what steps are needed?
So mostly to find out what steps would be needed. The scope that they've written into that Dinsmore has in their engagement letter would be to undertake efforts to engage in the research, the review of documents, and the provision of legal advice in connection with development matters, and to interact with representatives of the village, potentially representatives of other political subdivisions, and or municipal advisors. So this advice is likely going to be whether or not the land can be, whether or not the village could acquire the land, not how all of the steps would have to, what all steps would have to occur in order to get to that point. But I would expect that it will include some of that, because by the very virtue of them rendering advice that you could purchase it would suggest that they see the path forward. And I would expect some of that to be laid out in there. It's not going to be I would not expect it to be a final end-all, this is exactly what needs to occur, and then the village can purchase the land. But it'll get us a lot farther down the road.
Okay, so just for whatever it's worth, the way I interpreted our conversation last time, I know it's in this time as 7,500, and last time we talked about up to 20,000. So this sounds like a good step, that it's like, let's find out what's possible. But the way I interpreted our conversation last time, the resolution we made last time, was essentially to figure out, like, to finish the job, right? So that if we find out it's possible, but then there's additional work that's needed to make it happen, that when we talked last time, we talked about the prospect of using money to that end.
Sure.
So I would just assume that we would...
There would be more to
there would be
see,
another,
yes.
A next step. Okay.
Correct.
I'm just making sure that was my understanding. Okay.
Correct,
Thank you.
because depending on what this looks like, what this opinion looks like, and I am not a bond attorney. We need bond counsel to look at this. And depending on what this advice looks like, then that'll determine what needs to happen next. And if there's other considerations, I envision it in my head sort of like a domino effect, right? If one thing will allow for another, then what the process might look like. So yes, I would expect that this will not be the end of the story from your perspective, that you'll see more. The number is, the 7,500 was because that's what Mr. Rui indicated to me, that he could do it for less. That it's not going to take $20,000 to render that advice. I can get there quicker than that. So yes, we'll chip away at it one step at a time.
Thank you.
Brian?
Oh, no, I'm
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I want to...
I do need a clarification, if that's okay, from Amy while she's there. At our last meeting, we were talking about just being able to expend funds for this purpose, and you mentioned that it's gray. Have you looked into that a little bit more? Is it no longer gray?
Thanks for asking that question. One of the reasons why this is teed up in such a way for the village to be hiring our own counsel to acquire this advice is because I think that makes it a lot clearer, right? That's where the rhetoric, my concern at the last meeting, the talking point of the village paying the school's legal fees, that gave me pause, that caused me concern. But this is much clearer. Village has its sights on some land that it might be interested in acquiring, and the next step in order for our due diligence is going to have to be to find out whether it can be acquired. So that this is much cleaner. Like, you can never, speaking as to whether or not an auditor will take an exception with an expenditure of public funds can never be an absolute. But I'm much closer to a feeling of this is the proper public purpose of this. If the resolution has a preamble, a lot of whereas clauses that lay out what the village is looking at doing and why, it lines up directly with stated village goals. So yes, I think we're well more in that realm of a comfort level, Trish, than I was at the last meeting. Does that help?
Yes, a lot. That makes me have more of a comfort with it, so thank you.
Anything else for, well, while you're there, I would just say, sort of from an overview perspective, and I really want us to consider this. So, step one, and I'm making up the steps, but step one is spending $7,500 for these legal fees that'll get us somewhere down the road towards answering a lot of legal questions about the lien on that property.
Answering the threshold question. Yeah, right.
Step two would be the other questions that this effort is not going to address. Maybe there's another step, but at least a follow-on step would be, as you've alluded to, Amy, is the purchase of said property. And so this is what we are considering. And then I just didn't fill in the next step because I don't know what the next step is, other than the fact that one of the questions I had, and Brian spoke to this in a communication we had, was, if once the lien, and maybe Mr. Huey would be able to answer this question. Once, I'll just say for the sake of argument, these 3 acres are unencumbered, decollateralized, for the school's bond issue, does some other 3 acres need to go in to the mix to replace that? So that's a question I've heard both sides of that, by the way. And then if there are other, if there is a need for additional property being purchased to replace that, then
What does that look like?
what does that look like, and who's purchasing that?
Right.
So there's lots of moving parts, and I think we should be prepared to consider all of those realities, which is why I have a little bit of issue making commitments for some unknown sums of money, and at least 2 large sums of money that we don't know what they are. So, any other questions for our solicitor? Go ahead.
I just thought of one more, sorry. So who then, essentially manages this relationship? Is that you?
With Mr. Rui?
Yeah.
It'll be myself and Mr. Burns. I mean, Johnny will be the one that signs the engagement letter if council approves the resolution as the representative of the village. And then I would expect that the whatever written legal work product is produced, some type of memo would be sent to Johnny, and then they would copy me as solicitor.
Okay, thank you.
I mispronounced Mr. Rui's name? Please forgive me.
Yeah, it's all right.
If you're listening.
R-U-W-E, Mr. Rui. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Amy? Any other comments, questions, and concerns regarding this legislation? All right. Judy, thank you, Amy. Judy, if we could do roll call vote, please.
All right, DeVore Leonard,
Yes?
Gustafson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Housh,
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Next item on the agenda. Our next legislation is reading of Resolution 2024-43. Judy, if you could do that by title only.
This is affirming the rights of LGBTQ+ persons and celebrating our shared diversities.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All right. Discussion.
Kevin, should we read it in full?
That sounds like a good idea, apparently. So, Judy, if
Okay.
you would. Thank you. And thanks, Brad.
Yeah. All right, why don't I do that? affirming the rights of LGBTQ plus persons and celebrating our shared diversities. Whereas LGBTQ plus people exist in all cultures, all classes, all families, all religions, and all ethnicities, and are actually actively welcomed in Yellow Springs as codified in our village values. And whereas when those of us empowered to believe in the worth of our lives and voices use our voices to challenge the discrimination and diminishment of all disempowered people, we lift up all LGBTQ plus people and strengthen our community. And whereas the concept of pride is rooted in a disgusting history of relentless shaming for what people are, who they are, and whom they love. And the expression of pride is essential to solidifying belief in and respect for LGBTQ plus people's worth as a community and as individuals. And whereas we wish to recognize the LGBTQ plus persons significantly contribute to our communities, and we raise ourselves by raising all disempowered, underrepresented, and oppressed people. And whereas LGBTQ plus people in the United States continue to fight for equal treatment, dignity, and respect, and we must join together to overcome current threats from transphobic legislators. And whereas Be Yourself Here truly embodies the year-round YS Pride vibe, and the Village of Yellow Springs is and will continue to be a safe, creative, inspiring, and uplifting space. Now therefore be it resolved by Council for the Village of Yellow Springs that Section 1, Village Council takes pride in the diversity of our community and commits to ensuring the equal treatment and protection of all villagers and visitors, regardless of race, age, sexual orientation, gender expression or identity, ethnicity, economic status, mental, physical ability, or religious affiliation. Section 2, Village Council encourages the celebration of June 24th to 30th as YS Pride Week to recognize the rich cultural and societal contributions of the LGBTQ plus community and the progress made in the ongoing fight for justice, equality, and inclusion, calling on each of us to recommit ourselves to confronting hatred and bigotry in all its forms.
Thank you, Brian, for reading that, and thank you for encouraging that it be read in full. I appreciate that. I think I got caught up in the administrivia. Yes. Any other discussion? Certainly the resolution makes a strong argument for itself. Is there any other discussion? All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor of passing this piece of legislation, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the motion is passed. Thank you, everyone. Now it appears that we are to our newly added resolution. The document to be considered as a resolution. So it doesn't have a number, or is it numbered 44? Okay. So Judy, if you could read resolution 2024-44, I presume?
Do you want this by title only, or do you want this in full?
I think by title only,
Okay.
and then we can discuss it.
And you've got it before you, correct?
Yes.
Council?
Yeah,
Right.
we all do have it. Yep.
This is committing to pursuing a low-income housing tax credit project in line with established village housing vision and village values.
All right, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Brian, I'm going to ask you to lead the discussion.
Yes, I think Gavin kind of said it pretty succinctly. This is what I tried to capture when I wrote it, about what we've talked about around our commitment to this low-income housing tax credit initiative. And again, the reason why I pushed for us to consider it tonight is that I mean, we've heard when we had the stakeholder meetings that Home Inc. brought together, many leaders around the table said the village needs to really formalize our commitment. We've heard Dino say that several times to us, that it comes from us first. And I think that if we're going to send a letter to Cresco and AUM asking us to join us in this very important project, transformative to our village, that it makes sense to back it up with our commitment. Now, I understand that, Kevin, one concern you expressed was, what does that therefore about the Affordable Housing Fund mean? To me, it's important that, we've already passed a resolution that we're committing $7,500 of the Affordable Housing Fund, and that's actually what I was thinking about when I wrote that. But I also think that, moving forward, if we see a path that we need to expect that there may be some other, legal costs, there may be, we know there are going to be infrastructure costs. There are going to be things that the project, for the most part, takes care of, but there may be some other things that we need to expect. And so, my main intention is to send a clear message to hopefully our partners at the CBE that we really want to see this happen if possible, with the understanding that there's another site that we hope we can untangle and make happen. But if we are going to move forward, we're now at the 8-month mark, we need to send an indication to some developer, to one of those CHDOs, that we've got a site and we can move forward. And so, But anyway, I think it expresses everything we've committed to verbally in writing.
Thank you, Brian. And as I said earlier, I appreciate the fact that, that Section 2, where it's obligating us to utilize our low-income or affordable housing fund. And I also said that I am concerned about us passing a legislation like this that might could possibly tie our hands in terms of committing funds that we haven't really considered. Now, that being said, I do understand that every additional expenditure, we would have to pass on an individual basis. So we're not saying that we are going to spend all $100,000 of however much money is in there. And I do know that some other items, like Lawson Place and other properties, have generated some needs for some of those funds. So whatever the total is, I would suspect that it's really a net of that. So I'll go ahead and open the floor for conversation and comments from other members of council.
I'm not sure I have anything more to say, but just, to reiterate, this resolution as it's worded reads to me like I understood that's what I thought we'd been doing for a long time. So I understand that I guess it's my understanding, no one has said this to me directly, but indirectly I've heard that there are concerns that this was not our intent. I always thought our intent was pretty clear about this. I don't know, it's interesting from this angle. The number of public discussions that we have about it, the ways that information moves. So I guess I'll just say that if this wasn't clear that this is what we were talking about, I think arguably since last September, then I'm sorry that wasn't clear sooner. So yeah, just to say, this to me feels like it's just stating what we've been trying to figure out, but with a bunch of politics and complexities, but this was I think it was always clear.
Okay. Yes, Carmen?
I'd be interested in finding out, well, I think there's not even close to $100,000 in the Affordable Housing Fund now. I think it might be less than 20. I have to look. So that's something that we need to consider. The other thing is, I will say that it's really interesting to me that I'm the only person opposed to putting housing on the CBE for the reasons that I will state over and over again. As such a progressive town as we purport to be, putting people who can't afford to be anywhere else on industrial sites is not done anywhere else. And I understand that we're desperate, and there are a lot of us who want to get this done by any means necessary, but we're not considering the people who would be living there. And I've heard someone say, well, I've had to deal with construction noise for 3 months now or 4 months now. Imagine living with similar noise for the entirety of your stay at an apartment complex next to a marijuana factory. So I get it, and also it's interesting to me.
So, if you don't mind, so I do understand that Brian spoke about some value in this legislation being added to the letter that's going to our covenant partners, but we should not conflate the intent of this legislation, which is a broader, we are in support of the LIHTC project, we are in support of affordable housing, and we're willing to commit funds. That by no means says that we want to, that the property that will be identified would be on the CBE.
Of course, and I take umbrage because I'm conflating the two. That's not an issue, because they are by nature conflated. I didn't do that. We're attaching it to a letter that we're sending to Cresco and AUM. There was no conflation on my part. So, yes, I get it. Of course, I'm for this. Yes, thank you.
Yep. And I think Brian also suggested, that the previous legislation, was, the intent was to be looking at another property.
Right.
Now, having said that, Carmen, I really appreciate your passion, and you're right. Does it matter that we're looking across the street instead of right next to it? It's a valid point. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I guess I just want to say, Carmen, in response, I don't think about it as that there's no other concern around it. This is another one of these places where, for me, this has been an interesting process to be engaged with. I'm just not clear on what the impact is. I have heard from people involved in this process that the sort of industrial nature of Cresco's operations are. So, we talked at the last meeting, say you take the sort of classic example of, like a large, coal mine or something, some large factory where there's lots of obvious pollutants and emissions. In this case, I legitimately don't know what the impact is.
Let's not conflate those two. So,
well, but you're
Yeah,
saying you're saying that we shouldn't have industrial sites, and I'm just saying that you can't.
That's not what I said. I didn't say that we shouldn't say industrial sites. I said that we should not put poor people on industrial sites. So let me explain myself just a little bit further, and then I won't talk about it again. Imagine you have a child who has sensory issues, and in the middle of the night, because there's heavy equipment moving, the beeping at 11 o'clock at night on a school night upsets your child. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about coal mines. I'm not talking about Tennessee. I'm talking about the right to quiet enjoyment.
I understand.
And putting poor people someplace where that is compromised, for me, whether it's a coal mine or the beeping of a backhoe, is it's unacceptable. I get it though.
I understand. All I'm saying is that we haven't been presented with any of that information. So could we work out when the lights or when the beeping would happen like we have with other, there was someone said.
No, that is Cresco and has the right to conduct, we're talking about the life cycle of a plant. So that would be effectively telling them how they can conduct business. And that's really sticky and probably not legal.
Okay, I'm just saying we haven't received any systematic information about light, sound, noise, any sensory
I got it.
issues.
Yeah.
So I just think, but you were saying like that no one else has any concerns about it. I'm just saying we haven't had that information.
Okay.
So I think it's from my perspective, because then the question becomes, is it worth thinking about putting housing on this land as opposed to not having anywhere to put the housing?
We're not there yet. I made my statement and we can just disagree.
Okay, I just wanted to put some context to the idea that no one else cared about it. I think there's lots of parts of this process it would have been great to get information about that we have not received.
So Trish, do you have comments? And then after Trish, whether Trish says something or not, Amy, I'm going to ask you to come up and maybe suggest some possible revisions. Trish?
So I did hear you at the last meeting, Carmen. I want you to know that. And this has been something that I've been thinking about over, between meetings. It's not just the noise, it's the light, it's the smell, it's how far outside of town it is. But I was going to bring up my concerns when we were going over the letter. With respect to this actual resolution, let me go back to it. Do we want to? One, I think that section 2 should be reworded. For the same reasons that Kevin noted. I think that sentence needs to be amended. And under the fifth whereas, do we want to broaden that a little bit more? Just a suggestion. But the concerns that Carmen did raise, again, I think that we should discuss just a little bit more in detail when we get to the actual letter.
Thank you, Trish. Amy, you have the floor.
Nothing more fun than redlining in real time. So, Gavin, I know you were just making the point before, but I do feel compelled to respond to the idea of Cresco and any noise or light issues. They're currently operating by right. We have no legal authority in any form or fashion to go in there and start making recommendations or requests about sound, noise, anything else that they're doing.
So, although at public meetings, when we, approved the Cresco deal, they did indicate that they could control lighting and smell. So
right, but they're sure, which arguably I'm sure if we had a Cresco rep here, the response to that would likely be something along the lines of, with the protection of the covenants, knowing that there would be no residential on the land. So they are keeping the light and the smell and everything limited to the point where it's satisfying their neighbors, AUM and vacant land. But I don't know that would necessarily work with residential. So, but again, they have that currently. Cresco operates under the protection of those covenants.
But we don't know how they operate. I mean, if someone knows, it hasn't been shared. So I think that's my larger point. Is like maybe that's what they'd say, but we don't know, because if somebody's asked them, they've never written it down and they never told
There's
us.
no harm in asking. I
Yeah,
agree with
that's
that.
all. I just
want to make it clear
Yeah.
that we have no legal ability to go in there
Sure.
and tell them, for example,
Yeah.
sometimes when you're hearing a conditional use application, right, we can put limits on hours and sound and light and things like that. That is not this. We can't go back in time and change their operations. If they're willing to do it, great. Okay, in terms of the resolution, I tend to agree with some of the concerns I'm hearing from Kevin and from Trish about Section 2, but as from a larger perspective, I would recommend change, the way this resolution is written, it sounds like we, the village, are the applicant, and we are not. So I think I would change some language both in the caption and in Section 1 to talk about how we would be willing to partner with or support or assist in pursuing a low-income tax, but not that we are committing to pursuing. We are not going to be the applicant for these credits. So I think that would be a good revision to change it to make it assist, support. I know these are all words that aren't nearly as concrete as pursuing the application, but we won't be. So I would recommend committing to assisting with the pursuit or supporting. Supporting might be better since we're looking for this to be a resolution of support. Supporting the application for a low-income housing tax credit. So that's the caption. Trish, you had a concern with one of the preambles. Was it the second to last whereas?
She said fifth.
The fifth one. And what did you want changed on there? Sorry.
I just thought that, I mean, is it worth it to have it, something that's broader? Because, this does change, like every 2 years, will we be revisiting this every single time this is a possibility? Or do we want to be specific?
All right, that's a good point. That's for you guys all to work out. I see what she's saying, that this whereas is very specific to this project and this point in time. So that's a consideration for the council. But for Section 1, after the therefore resolves, I would recommend changing village council is committed to pursuing. Again, we're not pursuing. That village council is committed to, again, whatever we want to mimic from the caption,
Supporting the pursuit.
the pursuit of a low-income housing tax credit project for the 2025 application cycle, and will work with partners and stakeholders. I think that works, right?
And it might be more than $15 million, right?
Well, and that's
It
not
could be 20
after-
million, I think, as we've heard.
So the 15 million doesn't appear after the enacting clause. It's all in the whereases. The legal stuff happens after. So we can, if we want to redline the whereases, I'm going to leave that up to you guys. I'm okay with them as drafted. If you want to change them, change them. But I would change caption, and I would change Section 1 to read the village council is committed to pursuing a LIHTC project, supporting the pursuit, thank you, of a LIHTC project. And then in Section 2, I would soften that language a lot. I would take a step back from willing to invest the funds and have it read something along the lines of consider investing those funds.
Open to considering investing or something?
Yeah. We just had a conversation recently about something else that council will be seeing, with a discussion about whether or not it should say council will do this, or if council is willing to consider this, right? Those are two different things. So if you make Section 2, council is willing to consider the investment of those funds, I think that might satisfy the majority.
Yeah, I agree, because that's where I wanted to land, is we know, we presume that there will be other expenses, and we should consider each one of them individually, not just commit at this time to answer every call.
And I just struggle with this one just because to me it's totally self-evident. It's like we can't, we could consider anything. The Affordable Housing Fund was talked about for approximately 2 minutes at a budget meeting, along with 17 other things that were put in the budget, theoretically, the majority of which we have no actual capacity to pursue. So everything is, so anyway, I'm fine with it, but I'll just note that like when we do these things that are wholly self-evident,
Well, based on the record, one could suggest that the entire resolution is self-evident, because we have,
I agree.
we're on the record saying that we support the effort. But I understand the formality and whatnot, so we're just formalizing what is self-evident.
So are we going to, would we now then vote to make those?
If we are done, we would do that, yes. If we are done with,
This is a
No,
draft.
to make the changes or no?
Nope.
It's a draft in any case. I mean, I think what you need is a readback of the changes so that all of you know that what it is you're looking at that's
I
different.
apologize. I was thinking about the language and not really listening to what you were saying. What are we talking? We're talking about whether we need a vote to make the changes?
Right.
That's-
Okay, so, and you're saying since it's just being added tonight, let's just
Well, it's draft
Round.
version as they're looking at it.
round table it and redline it and then vote on the redlined version? I'm okay with that, yeah.
I'm good with that as well.
Okay.
Well, wait, we're saying punt it to another meeting?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we're saying you don't need to vote, make a motion
Right.
and vote on each change, since it already came to you as a draft, and we're just tweaking the draft before you go to word, I think is what we're saying.
It is what we're saying, but you did steal my copy, so the readback part will be done by Amy.
Stole it and
Thank you, Amy.
And yeah, so basically, it's in the title. We're saying
Supporting,
committing to supporting the pursuit. In the first whereas, we're doing the same thing.
Okay,
It's
so,
committed to supporting the pursuit.
so the caption is going to read, committing to, we like supporting? Okay.
supporting the pursuit.
The pursuit
Yeah.
of a low-income housing tax credit project in line with our housing vision and village goals. Okay, or values. Great. What about that fifth whereas? Are we making changes there?
Wait a minute, John, excuse me. Brian, what were you saying about the
How
first?
about eliminating that fifth whereas? I mean, to me, just taking it out of there takes away the specificity without changing the resolution at all.
Which one, sorry?
Fifth.
The fifth one.
The one that talks about the once-in-a-generation opportunity. Trish's point was,
Basically, you're making your case to yourselves.
yeah.
Preaching to the choir.
Well, Tricia's point, correct me if I'm wrong, was that it's specific to this project. And that's actually the reason why this resolution didn't happen on May 6th, was because we were looking for something more specific. But, I mean, we can eliminate that whereas if people feel that's better.
Well, eliminating it is quicker and easier, and it gets us where we want to be, because the argument is the specificity,
Well, right.
too
I think
specific.
Brian's point is that the intent of this whole resolution is to attach to the letter that you're getting ready to
Send to the fifth whereas.
correct.
Well, but then section 1, I think,
Yeah, right. Section 1 is also very specific. You're supporting a pursuit of a 2025 application.
Yep.
So then maybe just leave the fifth whereas?
Yeah, I don't really want to sign this letter in perpetuity. I'm totally fine with doing one for 2025, but
Okay.
if we're running this back in 26 or 27.
Then
I think we'd be
maybe
fine
we
with
should take the whereas out.
And that was my point, do we want some, so just looking at historically how these have been handled, is it something that's revisited each time this happens, or do we want something that just is going to function for the future, now and for the future?
That would be far too efficient.
Yeah.
Trish.
Yeah, right.
I think.
Too much like doing right? Is that what they say?
it is.
Yeah.
So, are we losing the fifth whereas?
To be clear, I support the fifth whereas and the first, and the specificity of the year in section 1.
Yes,
And then
section
that we would
yep.
revisit our support for a future deal when the future deal happened.
Well, in that, the action is the sections, the section 1, section 2. All the whereases are all fluff.
They're not fluff. Spending a lot of my life
the
writing
legal- what's the
whereas,
legal
I'd
word?
hate to think of them as fluff.
I'm
But-
sorry. No disrespect. No disrespect.
No, they're important, right? They lay the trail of breadcrumbs for why different pieces of legislation are passed, and they lay the background when you Yes, so they are important. Your commitment, your legal commitment of what you're moving forward to do occurs after the resolves that. And I think the 2025 application cycle language should stay in there. So I think that regardless of what you do with the fifth whereas, and I suppose at this point, if you want my 2 cents, I would leave it. On the section 1, Village Council is committed to supporting the pursuit of a LIHTC project for the 2025 application cycle and will work with partners and stakeholders. Well, let's take out partners. We'll work with stakeholders to identify a viable site and develop a competitive application. How about that?
That works for me.
And so then on the second one, that's where we get a little, we make it a little softer. Village Council will consider investing funds from the Affordable Housing Fund and take other necessary, and how about we add in another will consider?
Could we add in like a comma through appropriate budget and legislation process?
I think we have to assume that that will always be the case.
One would think.
I mean, I do, but I'm really actually joking because that is how you
Yeah, we're in the midst of that appropriate legislative process as we speak.
That's why I said no.
Okay, let us do a summary.
All right, so actually, I really like what, I'm sorry, I apologize, Kevin, I just interrupted you.
That's okay.
But I really like Gavin's last suggestion. So let's look now at section 2 again and have it read something like, Village Council will consider investing funds via customary practices from its Affordable Housing Fund and will consider taking other necessary steps to support this project. How about
Perfect.
that?
Sure. Your 2 cents is important to me.
All right, you have
All right.
yourselves a resolution.
Okay, so we don't have to make a motion to do those changes, huh? Okay.
Correct. The changes are did. We've made the changes. Any other discussion? So we've had,
Somebody in the crowd, I don't know if that's
I think you should just do.
no, I think we're good. I think we're good. There's a lot here.
And we have
Much more to go.
Yep, we're good. So, any other discussion from council? Okay. We do have a motion, a second, on what is now the final version, after it's been redrafted. All in favor of approving this legislation, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the motion's passed. Cindy, I'm doing a minutes trivia again. All righty. Citizen concerns. This is the part of the agenda, excuse me, part of the meeting where citizens are invited to come up and speak on items that usually are not on the agenda. Judy will be our timekeeper. We will ask you to be respectful of that time and the potential for others coming after you. If there are additional comments, we ask that you come up. If there are additional citizen concerns, we ask that you come up and do speak on something that has not been addressed already. And I will remind us that council is not obligated to respond to any citizen concerns, and therefore we typically do not. Having said all of that, do we have any citizen concerns? And I am looking at Lisa Abel because we anticipated her coming. I do see other hands, but in terms of who got here first, Alex.
I have a question. Will there
Can
be
you
room
please,
for
can you
citizen
come,
comments?
Alex, please come up to the mic.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Scott, villager. I'm just wondering if there will be room for citizen comments during old business.
Typically not, but then we've gone off the rails a couple of times. Let's get there and have our discussion and see if there's anything else to say.
Thank you.
Okay? All righty. Well, Don, you popped up first. Why not?
Sure. So first of all, whenever you guys are like, oh, I think we're all for this, do we need a motion? You can always ask for unanimous consent. And you can basically do anything with unanimous consent. It's great. And it's very fast. There's no vote. Highly recommend. I'll be putting something in the next packet about tips on that line. I wanted to comment, of course, on the previous agenda item where there was no public comment, but I assume that that's allowed, right?
1 minute for what you're not supposed to be talking about.
Yeah, I think it was great that you passed that. Obviously, there was a strong concern that the village only, supported affordable housing in theory and not in practice, and so specificity is great, considering, the extent that those concerns have been raised even by the newspaper. And then with regard to old business, are you going to do like some kind of bait and switch here where you're not going to let us talk about the old business during citizen concerns, but then when we actually get to old business, we also won't be allowed to talk about it? So it's like a catch-22 sort of situation?
I am not in a position to speak on that at this point.
All right. Well, I guess I can always try to speak to old business and see what happens. I just feel...
Just tell people they can.
Oh, I guess I would draw council's attention to the fact that your rules actually...
John, hold just a second. I'm getting some advice.
Well,
I just, they're asking when to talk, and if it's about the housing, they're saying, when do we talk about the housing stuff? There was a thing on the agenda, so can we just take the comments when the thing comes on the agenda?
It would certainly be
Why is that a problem? Why is that an issue?
Okay.
When should people talk?
Okay. I think it would be to everyone's benefit that it happened during the agenda item. Council gets
Okay, so
council
then if they're not going to be able to talk, then let them talk now. They're asking, when do they talk? Just tell them when to talk.
We will consider old business at old business.
Okay. So... I'm sorry, I didn't really have my thoughts together. I really thought that you would say that we could talk about it during old business.
Well, I just did.
Oh, we can comment during old business.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we've
2.5 minutes, we just lost it.
We just lost it because we didn't have clear communication about our agenda. So just to be clear, if we would just communicate up front when to talk about it, it would be fine.
Typically, we do not, but because we've had a lot of energy around a few things that we don't typically have open comments on, we've been a little bit flexible as of late, and so we will continue to be in response to the passion in the room.
Wow.
Other citizen concerns? Come on up. You're going to arm wrestle over it.
I'm guessing that you thought the meeting started at 7, or you would have been here earlier, I'm sure of it. I just wanted to say that. So I'm Emily Seibel, and I'm here just speaking as a private citizen and a resident. It's actually really hard for me to be up here because it's just upsetting. So I just wanted to read the letter. I really appreciate that you are proactively said that it's being looked into, but I just feel like we need to share it. So as a neighborhood, we have some safety concerns about this new Spring Meadows residential development. And we really are urging you to hold Fisher Homes and DDC Management accountable for on-site construction management and safety. And we also ask that someone from the village be sort of appointed to talk to us directly when there is a safety issue that comes up or other concern that will directly affect us. And over the past several months, we've observed a bunch of different issues, and we're just growing increasingly concerned about them. The first one is that construction vehicles routinely speed through the neighborhood, going very quickly. There have even been, there's at least one instance that was videotaped of an altercation between the person driving and the residents asking them to slow down. Are also people backing up, kids playing, all that stuff, and they really are going fast enough that it's surprising to me that there has not been an accident. There also appears to be really a lot of just oversight, lacking on-site construction management. We observe routine OSHA safety violations. We will be reporting those to OSHA directly, but I thought you should know too, as well as what appear to me minors and children working on the job sites, framing, putting up drywall, spreading concrete, et cetera, and we're starting to take pictures of that. There really doesn't appear to be much on-site supervision. And then we also just feel a lack of proactive communication between us as residents and the builders or the village or DDC management, causing confusion at best and safety at worst. And there was an incident last week, and I don't know if you've ever been in a position where you realize you could have lost someone that you really love. But I'm just still processing that. So a subcontractor began drilling within 20 feet of my home at 128 Kenneth Hamilton Way, where my partner Penny, her friend Robin, who's right here, and 5 dogs were sitting on the back porch. The drilling caused debris, and Penny was hit by a rock in the arm and a rock in the leg. The drilling proceeded to hit something underground. The subcontractor then spent a few minutes on their equipment before coming over to say, you might want to go inside. It's going to start smelling strong out here. And had Penny followed the builder's instruction to go inside, it is really not an exaggeration to say that their lives would have been in danger, because the contractor hit a gas main less than 20 feet from my house and told them to go inside. Thankfully, Robin, who is the hero of this story, knew better and immediately evacuated Penny. We went back and figured out a plan to rescue the dogs. The fire department was helpful with that. Large amounts of natural gas then spilled into the air next to my house for 4.5 hours. Natural gas can lead to explosions. I could have lost my family. I could have lost my house because of negligence. Not that it's not just that it happened, it's that what happened after it happened. So perhaps even more concerning is that after, and also just natural gas poisoning, not just is a safety and health issue that can kill pets and cause extreme damage to humans, especially when in big volumes like that. So perhaps even more concerning is that after the self-evacuation, approximately 20 minutes after this whole thing started, Robin, again, if you give out civilian awards, she should get one. She had the wherewithal to call the police to make sure that this had been reported. And my understanding from talking to Robin is that the local authorities had not been contacted or notified that there was an emergency. So for me, how long would the gas line leak without anybody doing anything? I mean, it is a absolute dereliction of duty that no one from Fisher Homes immediately reported the incident, and residents had to protect ourselves. Someone could have died. Do you understand that? I mean, this is really upsetting to me. My partner could have died. My home could have been blown up. I could have lost my entire family, my pets. My neighbor also was later evacuated by the fire department, who is elderly and had just gotten home. So thank God Robin called when she did. So we no longer feel safe as a neighborhood. We don't feel safe in our neighborhood. Once the authorities arrived, the fire department started testing gas levels for safety, and we really want to thank the Miami Township Fire Rescue and Centerpoint Energy for their swift response to the situation. They shut down that end of the street, they tested for 5 hours, and they required a mandatory evacuation. The highest gas levels were found inside my house. Over the next 5 hours, no one from the Village of Yellow Springs, DDDC management, Fisher Homes, or anybody else proactively communicated with the displaced residents. I called the police department twice. I stopped by the police department. I left a message for the village manager's office. I called 911. And finally, I got kicked over on the 4th phone call to the Greene Sheriff's Department, and the Greene County Sheriff's Department, and they were the ones who ultimately called me back. But it was 5 hours. We have yet to receive any official communication from anyone. It's as if it never happened. And so we as a neighborhood do not feel safe. There is no trust, especially and most particularly with the builders. We welcome our new neighbors. We're excited about what this means for the village to actually have new homes being constructed, new families with kids moving in, more revenue. But this cannot happen again. It's not okay. I almost lost the people that I love most. And that is like a very scary thing to go through. It makes you feel extremely vulnerable. So I'd like an explanation, an investigation of what happened, an apology from everybody who owes us an apology, and a formal response indicating what actions will be taken to ensure that this does not and will not happen again, as well as a commitment to address the safety issues mentioned above. And that's signed by myself, Penny Adamson, Lee Usain Wade, Elizabeth Fox, August Capiola, Yolanda Simpson, Deb Strain, Scott Strain, Elizabeth Swisher, Kelly Karp, and Cheryl Smith, your neighbors at Kenneth Hamilton Way. So thank you.
Thank you. And I would reiterate that we are following up, and I am personally sorry for the danger in which you and all of your neighbors, Penny, who I know personally. So maybe we do need to come up with a Village Hero Award. But I know some folks just have a life of service, and they don't feel like that was anything special. It's what they would do under any other circumstance.
Right.
Especially when they to go back in the house.
Yeah.
It's okay to go back in
Gotcha.
the house.
You already knew.
Understood.
You knew that wasn't. You already knew.
Understood.
You already knew.
So we will continue our work in getting to the bottom of things and addressing the issue as appropriate. Thank you once again. Yep.
Sorry that happened. Lisa Abel, I'm representing Yellow Springs Development Corporation. You have a letter in your packet requesting some funding for a new part-time paid position that the Development Corp is searching for. I won't be applying, so I'm not asking this on my behalf. We are in a unique position where, as you know, we have Honda LG 23 miles away. They'll be starting up full production at the end of 25 or early 26. We have Joby Aviation in Vandalia, 24 miles away. They're scaling up for air taxis, 500 jobs or so. And we have Intel that's a little further away, 71 miles. And they're looking at now 2027 to scale up. So we're in a situation where we're close enough to those large manufacturing developments that their suppliers and sub-suppliers will be locating in this region. We don't know where, but they will be here. They don't want to be shipping stuff from California or Arizona when they can have a spot in Ohio. Plus, it's cheaper here to move their suppliers here. So YSDC is wanting to have a stronger presence in the region, to talk with regional partners and to make sure that it's known that Yellow Springs is open for business, and that we have someone besides just Brian, and Brian's done an awesome job of going to all these meetings and keeping Yellow Springs in front of people, but we need another person, and Brian needs to take a break every once in a while. And so we want to be able to continue the work that he started, the work that Karen Winter started. We want to have that regional presence to really promote Yellow Springs, help us connect with the kinds of businesses that would work here. We've seen bid requests for, do you have 50,000 square feet? No. Are you next to a railroad line? No. So we know there are only certain types of businesses that are going to work here, but we think that we can be a part of that, and we would like your support as also a member of the Yellow Springs Development Corporation to help invest in this position. And I understand that that this has to go through your resolution process, so obviously I'm not expecting a vote tonight, but just asking for your support.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Brian, since you were mentioned, do you have anything to add?
I mean, just as I emphasized before Lisa got here, that, Lisa's also given us a timeline, and we've got a great job description that we're ready to put out there. And then I guess the other piece I would emphasize is that the village did indicate that we wanted the Yellow Springs Development Corporation to be our economic development arm, and so I think it is really important that we support this effort. There's also an ask to the township, so the goal is to share that expense.
So is there an appetite to add that to the July 1 agenda as a legislative item?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll just throw this in. So sharing the job description, sharing the what's the purpose of YSDC, sharing the thing about the economic development arm, whatever that said or when it said it.
We've got a resolution for that, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So any of that kind of context to be put in the packet would be great.
Okay.
I'm going to need some clarification around, I think it was $30,000 that was budgeted for a different position. I'm looking right now, but I with YSDC.
Well, it didn't name YSDC, but it was $40,000 for economic development.
No, it was when I was on YSDC. I'll find it. We can talk about it offline, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
Alex wanted to.
Yeah, come on up. I'm sorry.
Interrupt if you guys are still working on that one. Alex Price, Yellow Springs Chamber of Commerce, and apologies, I thought this started at 7 or I would have had this earlier, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for everything with Street Fair and kind of give a quick rundown. We had a ton of compliments on Public Works, Public Safety, and just the seamlessness from the village side of things. It's been a huge change from October 22 when we started back up to where we are now, and it truly shows the partnership that the Street Fair Chamber and the village have grown and turned into. So mass accolades to everybody that was involved, and we just are so grateful to be on the path that we're on.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. Do you have any sense of what the economic impact of Street Fair is?
Yeah, so historically, Street Fair is, so October and July, or June and October Street Fairs are historically combined the largest economic impact in Greene County. Individually, they are second and third to Hamvention.
And are there any numbers to that?
So I don't have the numbers offhand.
But they're somewhere? I could follow up with you.
Yeah, I can reach out to Greene County and get that. I know that, we average about 22 to 25,000 people just on that individual day. Hamvention brings in about 35,000 people. So in terms of what the revenue that's brought in and that, I don't know, but like I said, I can look into that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Alex, I appreciate that, and I think the word on the street is maybe we're giving Hamvention a run this time. I think we might have been.
Yeah, I'm not going to speak on that yet. We have, I know we've got Chief Burge looking at some aerial footage to do counting, and then we've also are working with Greene County. They have a Placer AI program that uses cell towers to estimate the number of people in a certain perimeter. So once we get both of those back, we'll be able to kind of come to a pretty good number for everything.
But 35,000 is a good estimate for now.
If that's what you would like to put out there,
Yeah.
then I will go with it. But like I said,
All right.
we'll know shortly.
All right. Appreciate all you and everyone else involved with the effort that have been doing. Thank you very much. Thanks. Ready. I think we're still in citizen concerns. Any other citizen concerns? All righty. Thank you. Oops.
No, page is up. Manager.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Very good. All right.
The not Johnny village
I know, I was
manager.
going to wear my fake goatee and my glasses, and figured you guys would spot me right away. So, all right, so Johnny's manager report. Wanted to go through and highlight some things that I think he would want to draw out of here. So we were looking at parking donations. We're still waiting on those new signs to come in. Current total for donations is at $217.01. We really do feel like when those new signs come in, we're going to see an increase in those. The reflectivity issues are certainly a barrier for more donations coming in now. Public Works team arrived safely in Albuquerque. Yay. Very proud of them for what they are going through this week and what they're helping with. Just as a reassurance, I know that VM Burns did want everybody to know that we did take steps to ensure that we're all taken care of here at home in the event of an emergency or any issue. They took steps to make sure that we were in a good position should anything happen. A couple feel-good items here. John Bryan Youth Center had some nice highlights this week. They had some tie-dye projects for Pride Month, and they got to spend a little bit of time with Porter. So with the heat, we've been trying to, I know, isn't that a perfect picture? Guys? Like, it couldn't be any better. With the heat, we've been trying to protect Pupper's paws, and I'm sure the kids, between being in the pool, it's much better being in the AC, so the two of them got to come together this week. And then just a quick point, Benji's been pushing out a lot of communication about our new platform for communication. And this is a non-emergency platform for communication, Civic Plus, and we wanted to reassure some questions or inquiries that have been coming in that the company does not sell anybody's information. We pay the company to provide this service for us. You can it is an opt-in program, and you can opt in on social media, on our website, and I believe we're even sending some information out in utility billing. So, it's a great platform. We listened. That's what the big feedback was. I want to get a text message, and so this is exactly what that is. We can get text messages to you guys in the event of a non-emergency. It does not replace our current emergency one, which is HyperReach. So, and those are the highlights. Slow week.
Yeah, well.
I was mostly kidding. Don't even.
Thanks, Paige. And I appreciate you being here and being able to step in when Village Manager Burns is out, taking a break. Just like I think Lisa said, Brian needs to take a break sometime. I think all of us need breaks. So I'm glad that has gone well. Appreciate that. All righty. Yeah.
So if I need to talk to Johnny, that would be fine. But so the first thing that was on here on the manager's desk, the electric charging grant opportunity, I didn't know if that was like a thing that we needed to talk about now, or it says detailed gathered by July 12th. If it's the next meeting, I guess I would just say it'd be great to know what, so it's like 80% of what? So if it's like 80% of $10 million, that's very different than 80% of $10,000. So just that would be helpful to have.
I'll make a note, yep.
For when
Well, related to that, how many EV chargers are we getting and that sort of thing, so.
Maybe that's this details to when, July 12th? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I'll notate it here so that way he knows he needs to follow up with you guys.
Thanks.
And so just to be super clear, the only meeting before July 12th would be the next meeting.
Okay.
So that would, if we need to talk about it.
Sure.
Then.
Okay. And then I will want to hear about why we had the water loss spike last month. And then also, I'm very excited about that hefty renew thing. And so related to that, Judy, I don't know if there's somebody that could maybe like present a little bit about that. But that just looks awesome to me, so.
Wasn't that in our packet several months ago?
I think it's been out for, we talked about that this morning, actually. I think it's been out for at least the last 4 weeks, maybe longer than that, but at least the last 4 weeks.
But when they did it, there was an overview in the packet. Maybe we could send that back around.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, they provided the bags. Oh, yeah, and there's some good information in here, because I thought you had to put it on top, but you don't really have to put it on top of your recycle bin. Not putting any plugs, but I don't know where else you get the bags besides Kmart. Not Kmart, wow.
What's Kmart?
So I put Kroger and Walmart together, apparently.
Sears, is that what happened?
Yeah, right. But Kroger and Walmart, I know are around here. The Rumpke site has information, and I think it lists all the stores, and everything close to here are either Kroger or Walmart, I believe, if memory serves. But yeah, we'd like to get some more of those nice orange bags. All right. Anything else? Trish, anything for the village manager? Yes, you're de facto village manager today. Okay. All right. So moving on, we are into old business and reviewing the letter to AUM and Cresco. I am down as the person responsible for that. I will defer to Brian since you were one of the folks involved with drafting the letter. So feel free to go ahead and lead the discussion, please.
Yeah, I think, and so, there was some nice feedback from Meg, and I know Judy took a look, so did Amy. And as we talked about at the last meeting, the motivation for the letter is to know whether that's a possibility or not. I mean, bottom line. And I think that as we're trying to, see if there's a path moving forward, one of the things that, and we talked about this earlier, is that if we can identify a site, then that will then lead to confirming a developer, and we've got 8 months, so it's not a lot of time, but it's enough time to make this all happen. So I think one of the things that I'll note in the letter is a deadline for an answer, because I think that's one of the things that I know there have been conversations, but we just really haven't heard back. And I think otherwise, what is important in my mind is that, this is an opportunity that, we've already passed a resolution, council cares about it. We know that there's an ideal site that we hope we're going to be able to move forward with, and in about 2 weeks, we'll find out more about that. But I don't think that means that we can just wait and see, because there are lots of complications with the school site, just like there are with the CBE. I guess the last thing I'll say is that, I've already said, I understand it's not ideal, but I do want to remind folks that the property across the street is slated for commercial development. That's another 40 acres. We're talking about carving out 3 acres right by AUM, where it is very nice, it's green, and yeah, I think that's enough to say, because I know that this is the part where we've got folks that want to speak, so I don't want to take up too much time.
Okay. All right, so in the interest of concern for public comment, we're going to go ahead and make this a brief public forum. Same rules, most of the same rules apply, certainly in terms of the timings. And unique comments. So those who would like to speak on the proposed letter that has been drafted for us to send to our covenant partners to ask for a response from them regarding their willingness to consider negotiating changes in the existing covenants. Are there folks who'd like to speak? All right, come on. Yep.
Thank you for taking comments. My name is Abel Wolford. I'm a member of the Home Inc. board, but I'm speaking to you today as a citizen. My comments do not represent the board of Home Inc. I just want to make that clear. So, and I want to speak to the letter because I think in support of that, because I think it's an important step toward this affordable housing project that we are engaged in. And I think that it creates options by pursuing, and creating some flexibility if we include the CBE location in our conversations, as you guys have already said. And I think it's so important that we have options and that those are lined up now. Like, we bring them to the table. I mean, to me, this is the first step. We're bringing these people to the table to have conversations to see what options are available for that site, which could be housing, but it could hopefully also be athletic fields. Like, perhaps that's also an option for this land that creates, again, more options for us to solve problems that we're confronted with here for this housing initiative. If it turns out that the CBE land is the only land available for the housing option, I mean, for me, I feel like that's a good option to have for that. I mean, I agree with Gavin and with that we should explore the options. What is the impact to Carmen's concerns about what is the pollution, what is the sound, what is the impact to people? This, to me, is the first step in that. If we can't get the folks to the table, we can't have those other conversations and explorations of that. And I also agree with, as Brian said, that moving that housing to the front of that land is not an industrial location, in my opinion. It's a business and education center next to a college and a business that grows marijuana. But again, I think we have to discover the impact of that, plus the environmental concerns also would be a piece of that. So otherwise, I think it's a beautiful location could potentially be a beautiful home. And then the other piece that I wanted to speak to is that the Springers for More Springers Action Group is circulating a petition of folks to support this, or in support of this initiative, and that we've had that petition now in circulation for about 3 or 4 days, and we have collected 20 families and individuals who have signed up for a focus group. So those focus groups will be conducted by Home Inc. and with some help from a professional person there in Cindy, and that we'll have more information about that it'll be focused on the struggles that families and individuals are having finding housing in Yellow Springs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. All right. Next up.
Hi, my name is Alexandra Scott, Yellow Springs resident for about 12 years. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a private citizen and not on any organization. I just wanted to say, with regards to, this is really quick, with regards to the property over at the CBE, absent any safety concerns, I think it's really important that we need to know that there are people in Yellow Springs right now living in substandard rental housing that is damaging their physical and mental health. There are people in Yellow Springs right now struggling to find housing or on the risk of losing their housing that is damaging to their physical and mental health. I think living next to a pot farm is the least of some people's concerns. Thank you.
I'm one of those people.
Same.
Next. If you want to speak, I need you to come on up. Yep.
I'm Emily Seibel, the Executive Director of Yellow Springs Home Inc. I've shifted. So I just wanted to clarify that part of the reason we were initially interested in the CBE site was because of scoring, but also because there are steps where we would be engaging the public, looking at designs, seeing what issues are there, how can they be mitigated, can they be mitigated, but it would be part of the process. And we're not to that point yet because we don't know if it's even on the table. And then another piece, should this move forward, which again, I just have to keep reiterating, is a really long shot for 2025 without a developer partner at this point, but is that there will be a phase 1 environmental review conducted prior to an application. It's a mandatory piece of the process, and then if they find anything, then you go to a phase 2 environmental review, which is much more intensive. So that would be that's just a standard part of the process. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily. Dino, I couldn't tell since you were always standing up if you
I missed my opportunity to speak earlier, but that's okay. That was on me. Dino Pallotta. Regarding the CB, the covenants are the covenants. We've all talked about it ad nauseum. You got to know about it. You got to understand it. Brian is YSDC president. We're on housing and we're on business. The CBE, you've got it for sale for business. We're trying to attract business. Now we're sending a mixed message that we want to look at housing. So you're sending mixed messages, so I don't know how that's going to affect bringing business in when they see that there's something always coming up that you're looking to change the rules. Make sure we know the business, know what you're looking for. You still haven't committed. Even in this letter, you're not committing. You still haven't shown that this council is committing to this actively changing the CB covenants. Your partners don't know. And they're not going to respond until they get an affirmative out of you. I promise you, they will not respond to this letter. And it's almost becoming a point of that you're bullying them, that you're looking for an answer. But in actuality, I still haven't heard the words. We are in support. We are voting 5-0 that we're in support of this, that we want to change the covenants, and we're going to look to our partners to see if they want to change the covenants. It hasn't happened, and if they don't see it, they're not going to take the step out. You guys need to take the step up and show what you're looking for, and maybe you'll get a response from them. But I'm going to assure you, you're not going to get a response from them. I just hope we would just move off of this and you're already going in another direction with spending money that may or may not be the best thing to do, but you're spending money on exploratory, so go that route.
So, yeah, I'm imagining that the folks from Cresco and AUM might watch this. I would if I was them. So just to say, what I think we're thinking about with the letter, I'll speak for myself. What I mean by the letter is to say, hey, are you open to talking about this? Is this something that's so rather than saying, we want to do this for sure, and then if you don't like it, we're mad at you. We're saying, hey, we're interested in looking into this. Is this an option? I also wanted to bring up the soccer fields is that an option that we would put fields there and consider adding that to the letter? But it's not, I think the hard part has been, I can't speak for anybody else, but I've never talked to anyone from there, and I don't think, we haven't had any systematic information about what the communication has been. So just to say, that's what I was hoping that we would get through is, there's clearly interest in figuring out whether or not this is an option, but there hasn't been any formal conversation. So that's what I was hoping we would do.
Additional comments from the public? All right. Any additional comments from council?
Well, I have so just to be clear, if we're talking about any other comments about doing this, so is there anybody who has a problem with putting in the soccer fields as an option? That feels like it's part of the question to me is, could some of the land be used for soccer fields?
So.
I have that in my list of things to ask as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. You raised your hand like I asked you to, and I didn't see your hand. Please forgive me. I guess I have a question in that regard. Amy, I'm going to ask you if you can answer this question. Certainly, the covenants would have to be modified for residential housing. Would they have to be modified for a soccer field, a sports field?
I checked that last council meeting, and I cannot recall exactly for sure. Let me double check the covenants.
Sure.
As you were, I'll be back.
Well, I'm a man of a certain age. I might run down the hall in a little while. No, I'll hold on. I'll be okay. So that's the question. So the floor is open. We've got our solicitor coming back with a response. Other than that, we'll open the floor once again.
I'll kill 15 seconds by saying my name is spelled wrong. Capital V, no dash.
So I also wonder if we could modify the third paragraph to make it more of an invitation to talk, because I kind of feel the same way. Like, there have been sidebar conversations, but this is the first official communication from all of us. And I don't want it to be off-putting. I think it should be more of an invitation to have a discussion.
You have, Trish, an actual suggested revision?
Well, just my computer keeps we say, we're asking them to partner with us. I mean, we are asking for, some time to sit down and have a discussion.
Brian?
And maybe putting something in there that, acknowledges, like, the benefit that we see in having them in our community, just, because they are a large employer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing that occurs to me is that Johnny's had several conversations. I think Amy and Judy and Meg were at a live meeting, at least with Cresco. I don't know about AUM. I've spoken with, the CEO and the chancellor of those organizations.
You've spoken with the chancellor of AUM?
Yeah, Bruce Grimes.
Okay.
Yeah. We used to work on other projects together or whatever, so I knew him. So I guess I'm not sure that we've had discussions, so I guess I'm not saying that, we couldn't, get together again. But I think otherwise, highlighting how important they are to the community, they're great partners, is important. At the same time, I don't think we should be hesitant to make this request. Cresco wanted to be in Yellow Springs. We are partners. AUM has a long history in Yellow Springs. So I guess that's my only pause, is that I don't think this is a bad thing for us to do. I think it's appropriate for us to be direct, that, we're down to the wire. So I like that feedback, just to give more context.
So you think that, go ahead.
Can we say in the highlighted area, add the thing in there, something about, that we recognize their significance, but then that, we're asking them to have a discussion about partnering with us, or just, it is pretty demanding, and I just think if we, again, make it more of an invitation, then the tone may not be as off-putting when they're reading it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So, Brian, do we want to make those changes on the fly now? Do we want to, let
think
it
at
cook
this-
a little while, and come
I mean,
back?
to me, I think that we could, share our feedback via Judy and adjust the letter. And maybe it's more of, do we have a majority of council that wants to send the letter? I mean, I think we can figure out amongst us, like, we can change the tone a little bit. I think that all makes sense.
So if
That would be my recommendation, is
Yeah.
that, we continue to tweak. We've gotten feedback from the staff, and so whatever council wants to weigh in on, I'm generally comfortable with what I'm hearing Trish say and what
Okay.
Gavin's saying, so.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, I like the changes, or the consideration of the changes, and just, make the words make sense, clean it up. So having said that, does anyone on council have a problem with Brian working with Judy, fielding any comments, and, on the premise that the letter doesn't change wholesale? I mean, as is, with just some tweaking to sort of refine a few things. Anyone have a problem allowing folks to continue to work on this offline and then still get the letter out in short order? I'm good with that. Gavin, Carmen?
I'm abstaining.
Understood. All right, so Brian, please take it. Gavin, do you want to add something?
Well, did we kill enough time, Amy? Are you vigorously reading? That's the only other piece.
Yeah. Last meeting, they were just right there, and this meeting, they just were not. So now I'm trying to get through them. They're not, of course, scanned in such a way that they're searchable, because it would be way too easy. Permitted uses. Yes, why yes, I've had enough time. All lots shall be used solely for office, commercial, medical, educational, assembly, research, servicing, light industrial, warehousing, and distribution purposes, and for services related to those uses. So we have educational in here under a standard real estate, planning and zoning analysis in Ohio. That would not include recreational soccer fields that aren't on the property of a school, but I would, yes, so to answer your question, Gavin, yes, if you're going to move forward with soccer fields, I would amend the covenants to include it.
Okay.
So then could we get a check from the council? So I would be in favor of asking them about that too, because it seems like that could be part of the figuring out our options. Does anybody have a problem with that?
I don't. Trish, you good? Brian, I presume you're good.
President at the last meeting stated that we could assume that no answer is an answer. So I just want everybody to know, I mean, I'm sure everyone realizes this here. Yes, we're going to extend this ask, and also they are not obligated to respond. And if they don't respond, it does not make them the bad guy. We have to get that, that has to be very clear, because we cannot be in this community together if the businesses that are conducting their business decide not to respond or say no.
I understand, and I appreciate that. I'm sorry, what was that, Trish?
I raised my hand, but then you were talking. I was just saying this is your point.
Okay.
So then the other thing I wanted to mention is, in the letter, it refers to attaching the map that we have of where the proposed site. I also want to attach the resolution. And then the third thing is, we saw the images of what this might look like. So I feel like those are things that should be included with the letter.
I'm not in love with those images, personally, but...
What's that?
I said I'm not in love with those
That was a previous developer, so I would not attach those images.
Yes.
No,
We don't have permission to do that. We can't.
Yeah, that was St. Mary's work, and St. Mary's is currently not part of the project.
Right, that's not our stuff.
All right, that might be true. I mean, we did have permission to put it in our packet, but that's a fair point. I just know those are the questions that came up for the school board. Where, what does it look like? I would imagine that would be the questions that they would have as well. So, okay.
All righty. All in favor of handing Brian this draft and allowing him to tweak it and get it out in short order, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any? All right, that pretend motion has passed. All right, Brian, you've got the ball. Continue to run with it.
All right.
Thank you. All righty. We are, I don't know why I'm on this one. So, new business. It's grant application resolution discussion. This came up as a result, Gavin, it may have been your suggestion, but it came up as a result of the folks, we're still meeting. Thank you. Have a good night. It came up as a result of the sidewalk. Should I be letting you talk?
Well, it was my idea.
Okay.
Yeah, it was my idea. It was something that I had pulled and suggested to Judy, who, in Judy fashion, tweaked it and made it a Yellow Springs resolution for our consideration. We talked about putting it on this agenda, but thought it might be a better idea to discuss it, have it on the next agenda if council so chooses. The idea being that we don't, as far as I can tell, have any set process for grant application and approval. So the way this was originally drafted was to just be a blanket authority for applications, grant applications to be submitted. I don't think this draft really specifies something that came from follow-up conversations, which is that maybe it should say blanket approval to apply for grants if they do not have a matching, a local matching amount, or something to bring it back in front of council. The risk of doing any of this is that once we start putting a process in writing, then we have to follow our own process, and since we currently do not have one, that's not been an issue up until this point, but it seems like a good time to start. Another option, separate from this, would be to put something in our code. A lot of communities do have some codified ordinances about grant application and grant acceptance. So that's a consideration too. I could pull some examples and provide those to council for review instead of taking this approach. Just a way to sort of streamline the authority to apply for grants, who has that authority to apply for grants in the name of the village, and how that process, what that process should look like.
And when, Amy, please, when other municipalities have codified ordinances or some other legislation, is there some guardrail, some dollar limit? Like right now, I think village manager can spend up to 30,000? Yeah.
You think I'd know off the cuff what his authority is? I don't. I check it every time. That's the result of looking at a lot of codes often. Some do, yeah, some do. Some bring the grant application process into the spending authority and specifically make reference to it. I don't want to make it overly complicated. I don't want to overcomplicate the process. I do generally like the idea of having a process.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And we did, it was not written, but, we have traditionally had that process. For me, I like the solution that is in the packet. The one thing I would change is in the section 2, instead of acceptance of, I would change it to application for. And this is where it's the council approval. So this is the section about the match. Because really why we put that in place was we need to know if there's a match because we don't want to give the money back.
Right.
So
I like that change.
Right, so then that's where I was thinking that maybe this resolution should just be a blanket approval for grant applications if there is no match.
Yep.
And if there is one, council perhaps should, I hesitate to say that council should approve application because sometimes grants come into our awareness at the 11th hour. It's just the nature of the process. And so if you needed council approval in order to apply.
So yeah, okay, now I just waffled. So I guess,
Right.
yeah, so I guess one could ask, what does acceptance mean? And so with the situation we were faced with, an application was made, we were eligible, but we, by hook or crook, chose not to accept.
Right.
So, but
So, which maybe we should talk about at some point, because we haven't given any public update, right, on the changes.
I thought that was in the manager's report.
Well, we're waiting for Johnny to be able to.
Okay,
Okay.
John, okay.
So, I think it also raised the question of what is what is the match or what is the commitment, right? So let's take the sidewalk project. It'd be one thing if it was essentially, let's just say it was a complete grant. It was total money that was paid for the sidewalk. We were also taking on the commitment to maintain it, I assume, right? So there's a question about the maintenance, which we're seeing in the manager's report is happening with the question over on Grinnell Road, right? So anyway, this is, to me, I'd say I definitely want a process, 100% for a process. And I personally like to have it have some reasonable guardrails. So some like up to a certain amount, or in the event that there's a very short turnaround, that there's some set of boxes that are checked to say, did we check to see if this has any adverse impact, and that there's some level of transparency or communication to someone about that process. So I could be for a fairly liberal, high, like threshold guardrail, but this last thing happened and was just a flag for me that we really ought to be able to do better. That was a significant decision.
I have a follow-up thought on that, but first I'm afraid I might have said something wrong, because Judy has Amy might have said something wrong look on her face. Did I say
That was a
something
different look.
Something happened, but not
I
that.
that one pretty well.
I did not do this. You're still safe. No, the only thing I was wondering is it a regular occurrence when applying for a substantial grant that there's that response back period? There's a response back that says, we've accepted your stuff, you're being considered, we need these more things. If that's a regular part of it, then we can, I am very inarticulate, but what I'm saying is, we could insert in here that at that point, the point when it bounces back, and it then requires a match, then it comes before council if that amount has not previously been budgeted.
That's not a typical process for, I think, the grants that are going to matter. I mean, it's basically you apply, and then you get it or you don't get it.
And that's
So-
my concern because we have Choice One applying for grants on behalf of the village. Those are substantial chunks of money. And as we have found out, they sometimes include substantial amounts of match.
So this is the start of the conversation, and in response to Gavin's comments, I think I'd like to pull together some other samples and pop them in the packet,
Yep.
and then we can revisit it at the risk of not belaboring the point.
Well, I have something so we can further belabor.
Oh, I'm off.
So municipal committees have the opportunity to apply for grants. So ODNR, the EC has the opportunity. National Endowment for the Arts has something coming up right now. This 250 celebration. So how does that look?
Part of the reason why we're having this conversation, because it's fairly unique to the village that we have these committees of council that are applying for grants where it's the village serving as applicant. So that's where we need to look at all this through the lens of how we typically operate and make sure that we're still.
And these are grants specifically for municipalities.
I know,
Right.
I know, but they're not being, typically, my understanding is the applications are being done through the committees and not necessarily through, like, council or staff, is that right?
But I don't know if we've ever experienced it. I don't know who's written a grant in any committee, but what I'm saying is that
Got it. Okay.
there is funding available for municipalities, especially in the arts and also in environmental stuff.
And that's what I don't want to leave laying on the table.
Right.
So I want
And there was recently an adjunct, I just made up the word adjunct, it's a word, but we don't call them this, but LEAF.
Yeah, so they've applied for
That's the
two
example I was
grants.
thinking of, thank you.
Livable, equitable, age-friendly.
Yeah, they've applied for 2 grants.
LEAF's not us, though. LEAF's
Right,
not-
That's my-
but
that's my point.
but it had to run through us.
Yeah, it came through us.
So we found out after the fact.
They applied for it as the village, correct?
Yeah, because that was the only way the Dayton Foundation was going to, so,
Oh, did they?
yeah.
Okay,
So
that's deep.
Yeah.
that's where I think we need to look at this through the lens of how we want things to operate and find that middle ground where it can run smoothly. Choice one can do what choice one needs to do and all that, but we're also putting the guardrails up for, anything that we don't want, however we don't want it to operate.
So
Let me
Even
ask
though
this.
it's only 8:15, I'm feeling rather inarticulate too.
Yeah.
It feels like-
Is there a grant for a service or thing that could be made for something that we just wouldn't want? I mean, is there such a thing that we say, oh, we don't want purple sidewalks? We got $50 million to paint all of our sidewalks purple. but we don't want-
Absolutely. I mean, and that's why there ought to be some guardrails around it, because you could totally imagine, and like a village manager or other staff, or especially if it was extended to multiple commissions or
Community
multiple
groups.
department heads, community groups, that would go after all kinds of things. And this gets to like the sort of shiny penny question of like how many of those things are aligned with our priorities. Almost all of these projects, they're going to take time. So there is a minimum, a time commitment, which is money. And so that's why I say, like, what is a match?
Then Trish has her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
I'm
true.
just going to piggyback on what Gavin said. On a lot of grants, they're all different. The requirements are different, and it could be a staffing issue. Who's going to manage, each individual, document that has to be submitted at month 3, at month 6, at month, 12 months of time. I've done several different grants for homeless places in my former job, and the requirements are always different. So I do think that staff hours is just definitely something to, be considered of.
So do we need a policy?
I mean, I think procedure, some kind of procedure would be useful. And there's examples out there that we can all look at and bring them together and melt them down and form them up into something that works for us, I think.
The other beautiful thing is very close to hiring a project lead, which is kind of a thing that they would have a fair amount of purview over. So maybe the thing to do is
That's a good point.
gather the more information, but also, I'm kind of hopeful that someone with that kind of professional capacity can really help kind of break this down so that we're operating efficiently around this.
So one other thing I just want to briefly push back on is most of these major grants, like, the one that, caused the recent issue, it's not in the 11th hour. I mean, these grants are announced 6 to 9 months in advance or whatever. So I just want to.
Sure, when I say 11th hour, I mean the smaller ones, the things that you kind of stumble and say, oh yeah, we could, but it's due in 3 days, right? That's the big ones, yes, we should have plenty of ramp up, but most of the choice one grants, we would have plenty of ramp up time.
And certainly with this sidewalk thing, to use
Your
a
purple
phrase, the
sidewalk?
goal, say again, please?
I said your purple sidewalk?
Yeah, those. The goalposts did keep moving, so,
Yeah.
what started off as a great idea turned into a idea to nah, we're not going to do it. So,
It changed once. It was a $516,000 match, and then it was a $916,000 match. That's all it changed.
no, there was another change. It got worse.
Oh, then there was the uncapped change. But to be clear, anyway.
But we're not doing it though, right?
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
can't. So
Yeah.
maybe we should have, maybe we should have a procedure in place.
Yeah. So we're going to table this resolution, or do we need to go
So
with that?
just a draft, it's just a
It's just a
discussion.
draft.
So
Just a draft. My suggestion would be to put this on old business for the next meeting and let us just keep working through some ideas and then until we come to something that works for everyone.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing it up proactively. I think it's good.
Yeah, sure. I love procedure.
Indeed. So that being the case, that becomes one of our first future agenda items for some future. So we got that, yes.
Are we skipping boards and commissions?
No, because I didn't put it on here.
I noticed it
That's-
wasn't on there.
My bad.
I didn't.
Because we do have a nomination.
Okay, just nomination, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So Nancy Grigsby, who is a gardener and really wants to work on the community gardens. Carmen and I interviewed her. She's great. And so we'd like to nominate her, or I'll make the nomination for her to be on the Environmental Commission.
Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that your second?
That's my second.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Council, we feel, this Nancy's gardening experience, it's enough qualifications as far as we're concerned for being on the Environmental Commission.
That's one of our big projects on the commission, yeah.
And great. And I trust-
She was a former green business owner where the real estate office is downtown.
Nice.
And she had a little shop in there. It was cool.
So was there something in the packet about that with her qualifications? Did I miss that?
I don't know that, Judy, did it get to the table?
Well, I did not know that she would be nominated. Probably because I did not put boards and commissions on the agenda.
Okay, all right, no problem. I just want to make sure, that was personal. I just want to make sure I didn't miss something.
No, I did not. I
Okay.
put it in, I will send it around.
Yeah, she did submit her
Yes,
resume
she
and
did.
everything.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And again, trust you guys' judgment. You speak high level. All in favor of approving Nancy Grigsby's appointment to the Environmental Commission, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the motion is passed. Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Now to future agenda.
So wait, on the
I'm sorry, you got more boards,
committees?
commissions?
No, just
Sorry.
the one other thing I didn't mention earlier that would be helpful on the YSDC thing would be if there's anything about like the management structure for this person. I'm just trying to understand like how would this role work. So if
So I
there's a
actually-
memo about it. that'd be good.
Yeah.
I did ask for those documents to be submitted, and I'll make sure they are. Yeah,
Cool.
so, because I totally agree. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So y'all tell me if we're ready to do.
Yeah, and that is, you did want that added, and I've got it.
Yep.
And that addition to your resolutions, we're not sure about the PUD, and it's probably bumping to the 15th based on where conversations are. Car charging grant, you want more info?
Did that PUD thing get finished? Or get to
That
it?
was Meg's.
Right.
We're still on the decision point.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it can float around, and we can make a decision
Going back to the
Friday.
YSDC thing, do you
Would
want
you-
some, that-
Are you hydrated enough back there?
Going back to the YSDC thing, the YSDC is a community improvement corporation, which is a specific type of nonprofit under Ohio law. Do you want some information in the packet on what a CIC is? and
Yes.
How they operate?
And also, there was $30,000 in the budget that was put aside at YSDC for a marketing person, and someone submitted their resume. So I want to know what that $30,000, where is it, and if it could be used for this. So I'm going through emails right now, so we got to do some digging around, but there was.
And Carmen, just to clarify, that it was set aside in YSDC's budget or in council's budget?
YSDC's budget.
Oh. Well, yeah. Okay. Acknowledged.
And you folks have a 5 o'clock start next time, executive session. If you have not filled
We
out
love
all
you,
your
Amy.
surveys,
We love you. We're doing it for you. Oh, please, Judy, please repeat, I interrupt you, please repeat your comment.
if
about-
you have not filled out your Bricker Graydon survey regarding Amy, please do.
Yep.
And so we're starting at 5 o'clock next time?
That's what I've got. That was per you guys.
Executive session.
Yep, executive session, yep.
Yeah.
And I want to
Can you?
reiterate the survey, because we did establish a deadline, I think, for the end of the week after the last special meeting. So I am surprised that if there are any that are not completed.
It can be short and sweet. It's what you want to make it. But then-
No, I thought 2 hours was the standard. Brian, you missed that. That was for you. I didn't track. Well, I didn't track my time, but I might have been close to that.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on mine.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think it takes a lot of time to do a good job with that. Yes.
So for future agenda, I'm wondering if we could get a LIHTC project update. So I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I haven't talked to anyone at all about the LIHTC project since 2 meetings ago, or last meeting. And so I think Emily shared, I guess, an update that there's not any developer currently. I guess it just feels like it'd be relevant to me to have some kind of check-in of because we're talking about these things, but the context within which we're talking about them is unclear.
There's no developer. Yes, low-income housing tax credit, there's a lot of information on the Ohio Housing Finance Committee, and the Ohio Senate Select Committee on Housing has a lot of information on their stuff. We don't have a developer, and being absent a developer, especially a CHDO, because Home Inc. couldn't even do it themselves. They needed a CHDO.
I'm sorry.
We don't have one.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of update is there, I guess.
And the stuff that Brian provided, or the letter from someone sort of explaining, how an entity becomes a CHDO, I think was helpful.
But I think, that makes sense, Gavin, because one of the things Kevin asked me about in the email was, what are we doing related to the soccer field? So I do have updates around things like that that I can share.
So is that a LIHTC? That'll be the light. Okay. All right.
I think that's a piece of it, yeah.
Honestly, simply put, if there is no developer and there's not going to be a developer, then these other steps are.
Well,
so that's why I'm trying to get a sense.
The other thing is, I guess I will say that there could be another developer. There could be, and who's going to pursue that? Is it going to be the people that pursued it before and dipped out, or what? There's lots of questions.
That's exactly why I'd love to know.
But who's going to answer those questions?
Yeah.
Who's giving the update?
I guess I'd be interested in any updates that council members have, and then I don't know if it feels relevant for us to ask Home Inc. to come in. Is it relevant to ask, are there staff updates? I don't know.
Okay.
I just know that literally I've learned nothing new over the last 2 weeks, and then I know in the packet that things had happened. There was the CHDO email. There's a comment from Emily about what's going on. So, there's obviously there are conversations.
So Johnny and I are...
Brian got information that Emily wasn't able to give us at the last meeting, and Brian got that information.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Okay.
So Brian, if you and Johnny could...
Johnny and I think, because, we're talking about, everything that we do.
Good. So, all right. I see 8:29. I'd like to be on my way to the men's room by 8:30.
It's in your hands.
It's in my hands. Well, is that where it is? Actually, that's too late. All right, folks. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. 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 We are adjourned. Thank you all for your time. Trish, hopefully...